gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's May 9th, 2022. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined as always by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day, presented as always by LifeWallet, where the time is now to take charge of your personal health. And Matt, I thought we'd talk a little bit today about a hot topic that's been ongoing on a regular basis, but it just keeps getting better and better, and that's NIL. And the I don't want to call it backlash that's going on around the country, but there's alarm bells being sounded all throughout college football, all throughout college sports, just about the landscape of NIL and what they're seeing and how people are clearly paying athletes with no business purpose in mind and that sort of thing. And you know, that brings us full circle to what's taking place here at Miami with John Ruiz, who, interestingly enough, agrees with a lot of the furor that's going on around the country. He agrees that all these collectives and people trying to do NIL are not doing it the right way, but he's insistent that what he's doing is the absolute right way, and he wants the NCAA to call him and use his blueprint because you know, he feels like he's doing it right. Now, Friday night, perfect example, okay? He had a big event. He was promoting some boat races in South Florida, kind of lining up with the Formula One race. And he rents out the parcel downtown on the bay that used to be the Herald Building and stages a big kickoff party there. And he had all his NIL athletes out there. He was showing their videos on the screen. And he would argue, and I don't see how anybody could disagree with him, that this is name, image, likeness. He is using the players' name, image, and likeness to promote LifeWallet, to promote events that LifeWallet is involved with, that cigarette racing is involved with. And the players are there, and the Isaiah Wong billboard is directing people, don't go the Wong way. And honestly, it is NIL exactly as NIL is intended. But we're not seeing these type of programs around the country, Matt. And we're going to talk a little bit about a meeting that took place out in Scottsdale this weekend with a lot of the top athletic directors in the country, some of the top NCAA administrators. They are trying to figure out a way that they can sort of preside, I guess, over all of this without getting sued, without antitrust lawsuits. And the whole thing is really getting very complicated and very intense.
Look, it's very simple. Give me an NIL deal, and then I'll stop criticizing anything. I'll say how wonderful it is. Because all I want is an NIL deal, Gary. That's it. Is that too much to ask?
All right, I'll give you an NIL deal. But
I don't want it from you. I don't want it from you. I want it from a guy who does it the right way.
I want to keep you on point here. Don't drift off on me today.
Well, I've already said what I've had to say about NIL. I'm not going to change my mind, okay? NIL is great for student athletes, bad for the fan. Just because John Ruiz has a big party that you were invited to and I was not, doesn't mean that
you actually were invited.
I wasn't invited. I couldn't go. It doesn't mean that like this is the greatest thing in the world. It's a major issue. And when John Ruiz says he's doing things the right way, what he's saying is, by lawyer terms, he's not breaking any of the existing rules. Well, guess what? There are no rules. So there's no wrong way.
Well,
I mean, there are
rules. No, there are rules.
The NCAA is about to do something about boosters and the NCAA and NIL, but they have not yet.
All right, let me stop you for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, there are rules. Okay.
Well, the rules revolve around the school, not around the person who's
an NIL deal. There are rules that boosters cannot be involved in recruiting. And some of these athletic directors are stepping up and stomping their feet, and they're saying that they're telling the NCAA, enforce the rules.
You know what's funny? So you can say that all you want. This is just the truth. John Ruiz literally is doing recruiting deals or trying to. He's literally suing the NCAA saying, I've got 2 high school prospects that I want to sign and give a ton of money to. And he's suing the NCAA. So there's no rules, Gary. You could say, oh, it's against the rules. But there's a gray area. Like, you can't sign them. But you can say, hey, if you come to this school, we'll find an NIL deal for you. Like, no one's going to sue you or punish a school for that. It's not a rule that's written in stone. You just can't sign a high school kid to an NIL deal. That's all.
Okay, but there are rules. All right, let me just say there are rules that specifically say that boosters can't be involved in recruiting. So the first question you would say is
but you keep saying the wrong thing. What you're saying is the wrong thing. There's not a rule that boosters for a college can't be involved with a high school player. That's not a rule. The rule is they can't recruit a player to a school. Okay? So there's a difference. A booster can go and talk to a kid
correct.
Say, hey, wherever you go to college, I'd love to give you an NIL deal. There's no rule against that. You just can't recruit him to a specific school. But of course, the high school kid knows what school this guy's a booster for. I mean, give me a break. So there's gray area. That's all I'm trying to say.
So I wrote a column about this today. Okay. And I quoted 2 athletic directors. I quoted the athletic director of Colorado, who says, this is the time we have to put our stake in the ground. Enough. This is not acceptable. What we're doing is not good for intercollegiate athletics, and it has to stop. And then I quote Ohio State athletic director Gene Smith, and he kind of gets even more animated about it, and he says enforcement has to enforce. The schools need to enforce as well. At the end of the day, you have an institutional responsibility to enforce. Now,
they're talking about tampering, not high school kids. Okay?
No. But they're talking about the boosters being involved in recruiting, which
tampering. Trust me, tampering's a big problem.
Matt, time out. I know I'm doing a lot of talking here, but I spent a lot of time on this weekend.
Yeah.
All right. Listen. So, what these collectives are doing is they literally are signing kids and out recruiting kids and signing them to deals with no performance stipulations of any significance on the backside. They're not promoting a business. They're not, like in the case of what John Ruiz is doing. You can argue all day what your opinions are on Life Wallet and cigarette and all that, but John Ruiz is signing these kids to promote his businesses. And he agrees with the fact that all these collectives and 501c3s out there are not doing that. They are just giving players money. And that is why this is getting so crazy. And it's going to be interesting. John Ruiz would like to be involved. He wants the NCAA to call him and use what he's doing as a blueprint. I think they're more likely to try to lump him in with everything else that's going on. And he points out if they try to do that, I'm doing it right. And I got 100 lawyers sitting here waiting to go to war with them and battle it out. So this is going to continue to be interesting.
Listen, you're missing the bigger picture. There's the NCAA cannot, in my opinion, regulate student athletes getting money, and any booster can say, hey, I'm giving you $1 million to promote my friend's company. Like, I'm not sure, like the NCAA could try to put their foot down on that, but I'm not sure in an open market that they'll have success, and they'll be sued and they'll be tied up in lawsuits. What the NCAA doesn't want right now is lawsuits. That's what
they don't have.
And John Ruiz knows it, and everyone else knows it. So the collectives, they can't just hand people money. There has to be a quid pro quo, but they'll find a gray area to work within. The problem, and this
but they're not right now.
Okay,
right now they're just handing out money, and that's the problem.
None of this matters. Okay, that's just involving the student athletes getting money, which they're going to get the money however they make a rule, they'll find a way around it. It doesn't matter. The bigger picture, which you're not mentioning, and what John Ruiz doesn't talk about, because he's doing it the right way, which is great. Under the current rules, everyone else in the country can do it the quote unquote right way, and every top player from Miami to Alabama to USC is going to go in the transfer portal every single year. That's the problem. And John Ruiz won't talk about it, which is fine.
Well,
but there's no problem.
Issue.
Giving money to student athletes is fine. Like, I don't know why he's trying to make that the big subject. The big subject is every top player is going to be moving schools every single year in the current system. That's to me the big issue, which no boosters want to talk about and no athletic directors want to talk about. Athletic directors want to talk about illegal recruiting and poaching, and tampering. The big picture that nobody will talk about because it's unfixable right now without getting rid of the transfer rule is every top kid's going to go in the transfer portal every single year from every single school in the country because they want to get the best NIL deal before either going back to their current school. And they'll use it as leverage against the John Ruizes that are doing it the right way and say, hey, you want me back? Redo my NIL deal. And John Ruiz will say, I don't redo NIL deals. That's going to change pretty soon because that's what you're going to have to do. Everyone's going to have to redo NIL deals every single year based on how many yards they rush for, based on how many yards they have receiving, based on how good a reporter I am. I want a new NIL deal, Gary.
I'm going to tell you what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a guy that is a step ahead of everybody on this, okay? So now he has to prove that his NIL deals are based on the player's worth, not their athleticism.
He doesn't have to prove that at all. That's not written anywhere.
He has to prove he may have to prove that it's not pay for play. So you know what he's doing? He's having a team of computer programmers develop a system that athletes all over the country are going to be able to access that's going to tell them what their NIL value is. And he would say that the reason that the Cavender twins, who are just like wonderful, I met them this weekend. I met their dad. They are just so on top of what they do on social media and everything else. But what he would explain is this is why the Cavender twins were worth more money than almost every football player not named Tyler Van Dyke, because and they might be getting more money from Life Wallet and Cigarette than Tyler Van Dyke is at this point. But Tyler Van Dyke's getting a lot of other deals too. But he says he points out that the Cavender twins are worth more money than any football player because of their social media following and the value that you get with your marketing with the Cavender twins. And
let me ask you something, Gary. Do you think John Ruiz is trying to make himself the face of the Miami Hurricanes football program or not?
I think he's trying very hard to run a great NIL program and do it legally.
Okay, so you don't think he wants to be the face of the Miami Hurricanes?
He 100% does. I mean,
okay. Well, is that a problem? I
don't know that that's a problem if the people running the athletic department don't see it as a problem. Now, he crosses the line sometimes. He's making comments about adding sports, and that's really the athletic director's domain. It's not John Ruiz's domain to talk about adding sports and stuff like that. But he's new to this. I don't think he knows that there are any lines that exist. What he sees is what the reality is, that he is carrying the University of Miami athletic department right now.
Truth be told, if Miami
wins
national championships and John Ruiz is the face of the program, no one will have any problem with it. If this goes south and he takes down Miami to some extent with him, whether it's, I assume temporarily, let's say he has a problem with some NIL deals or some money situation, whatever, if that ever did come to pass, like Miami will recover, but it might take a while. And that's why it's dangerous. This is why working behind the scenes is something I'm a big fan of, because if it goes south with him, not that it ever will, but if, right? Anything can happen to anybody at any time. It's happened to him before. If it happens with him, with anybody who's a major quote unquote booster or whatever NIL person, if it's behind the scenes, it's like you can sort of sweep it under the rug a little bit. It's not going to impact you tremendously. But when you're out front and center like that and something happens, man, every school in the country that wants to negative recruit against Miami, which guess what, everyone does right now. A lot of people are upset with Miami because of the NIL deals and because of the transfers they've gotten from a few schools. Like, it's going to be ugly, man. So this is two ways. This is either going to be amazing or really bad, but no in the middle. And that's why I just wish he was a little behind the scenes.
There's no in the middle. And I think he understands the importance of all this. And I listen, you can't control the business deals. Like, yes, he's got that SPAC that appears to be on track to reward him in every way that he has said. And you can't control that. If it suddenly fell apart, then he would have to weigh.
We'll know in the next few weeks, right?
He would have to weigh what he's doing going forward. I mean, that's his personal financial issues. It's none of our business. But
isn't it though? isn't
No,
it?
only
He's
if he
paying Miami players
only if he
with that money.
defaults on all these deals. Then it
We
becomes.
cover the Miami Hurricanes. He's going to use that money in the future to pay Miami Hurricanes players. It's a little bit of our business.
That doesn't mean he
a
doesn't have
little
the
bit.
money to pay. He's only done a few $1 million of deals right now. What, $5-6 million in deals? It doesn't mean he doesn't have the $5-6 million to pay the players from his existing business. I think everyone has to understand that. I mean, there's so much focus on this SPAC merger deal that is very public, and because he's going to make so much money if it goes through. But it doesn't mean that he can't afford what he's already done with NIL if it doesn't go through. So my point is, it only becomes a problem for the university and for everybody if he defaults on all these NIL deals. There's no evidence of that to this point. All right. So
by the way, do you know how he made all his money to this point besides this new company he formed?
I don't care.
Oh, I thought you'd be interested. Okay, it was just a little trivia question. Okay.
That's his personal business, just like it's not anybody's business.
It's public information.
Business how you make your money to afford those big, beautiful paintings that you put behind your head and stuff. I mean,
I just thought it was interesting. I won't. I guess you don't. I guess nobody cares.
Like I honestly don't care. His personal business is his personal business.
There's nothing wrong with what he was doing. I mean, he was doing lawyer stuff. I was going to tell you.
Yeah, I know he's been a very successful lawyer. I know he's got the MSP recovery business, which.
That's what it was. It was MSP recovery. Covering. It's the money that insurance companies should have paid out and didn't, and he got the difference for people. So it's actually very noble.
Or the other way around, or paid out that were not illegit, and he catches them. But anyway, the point is, the thing that's obvious to me is what he is doing that I don't see other people around the country doing is he is putting enormous effort from a legal standpoint into making sure that this Miami NIL program is being run properly and legally, and that the players are working. And yes, work. Friday night was defined as coming to his event and having a presence there. And yeah, they all were walking around and they were up on the screens and the whole thing. Yes, Friday night, that was their work. Other days, their work is filming commercials and things like that. But he is making sure that there is documented work taking place within his NIL program. And people around the country, Matt, are not doing that. And that's why this thing's going to come to a head.
Listen, you say work. This is the truth, okay? Because I happen to be, I grew up, I don't know how many of you know Keegan Michael Key out there, but I grew up, his current wife, I grew up with her, and I know both of them very well. And he does commercials. I have another friend who's a comedian who we're friends with his sister, and he does commercials. They make a fortune. I'm not going to say exactly how much, but trust me, it's 7 figures. Okay, they make a lot of money because they run the same commercials, and every time there's a commercial that's run, you make a certain amount of money. So it's not like they have to. You keep saying they have to work and show up and work. The truth be told, you could make an argument that any of these student athletes that make an ad that he wants to run on the internet over and over again, that they're worth $1 million just for filming it once. If it runs over and over again and gets 1 million, 2 million, 3 million views, how much is that worth? So it's not like they have to keep working and keep showing up. I mean, he could probably make a case in court that showing up for a 10-minute ad for Tyler Van Dyke is worth a $3 million NIL deal. They don't have to keep showing up and doing stuff to me, but
I agree. But here's the thing: you can't argue what the price is, because something is worth whatever. It could be a thing, it could be a person, it could be a service, whatever. Something is worth what somebody is willing to pay for it. So
that's the problem the NCAA has right now, period. They can show up for 5 minutes, film something, $400,000 for the year. Show up the next year, 5 minutes, $400,000 for the year. And people keep saying, oh, you got to tweet out every week and whatever. It's just whatever's in the contract that they have to fulfill. The contract can say whatever the contract says.
Correct. But these collectives are going to have to step up their game and have real work that the players are doing. Or I think the NCAA is going to start cracking down on it.
I don't think so. It could be a billboard photo.
We're going to give you an $8 million contract to come to Tennessee. Okay, what are you going to do, Nico? What are your services? What services are you going to provide?
I totally disagree. It could just be a billboard on the highway saying he promotes, Kentucky Fried Chicken or whatever.
Then they're paying them for billboards, but they got to be paying kids for something, and right. That's what John Ruiz feels he's doing. He would like the NCAA to call him and use his Life Wallet program as the prototype for the country. So I write about all of this.
Here's what's going to wind up happening, okay? The NCAA is going to come down on somebody hey, he didn't do any work for you, and it'll be, he mowed my lawn once a week and I paid him $2 million. Like that's basically like what they're doing. They're just giving money out. They can make up anything they want. Like, how do you prove some of the stuff that somebody might have done, and have you put a price on it? I mean, I don't know. I don't know how the NCAA can sue people and say, oh, the program's in trouble because your booster did this or whatever. Like, that's why I keep saying the only way out of it for the NCAA is changing the one-time transfer rule. Without changing that, it's going to be free agency every year, like I talked about, for every single player in the country.
It could come down to all of that, and but to sum it all up, it's a fascinating subject. It really is, and it just I was consumed with it all as I watched everything play out Friday night on the shores of Biscayne Bay and saw what was going on out in Scottsdale at these NCAA.
You got blinded by the glitz and the glamour, Gary.
No, I'm not blinded by anything. I think the guy's brilliant.
You love NIL.
I think what he's doing is brilliant. I think he has taken this NIL thing. He is slaying it. Miami's benefiting
100%,
from it.
100%.
And as long as he pays the players, which there's no signs right now that he's not, then it's the greatest thing in the world. Man, it's the greatest thing that's happened in Miami in a very long time.
As of now, there's no problem with him being the face of the program. And if it keeps up, he can still be the face of the program. That's 100%, fine with me.
100%, because
I prefer Mario Cristobal or the athletic director or one of the players being the face of the program, or maybe even you, Gary. But for now, the guy with the money gets to be the face of the program.
Listen, he is doing a
money
great
can
job
buy
with
a lot of
NIL
things,
program.
apparently.
It's controversial. It's a hot button for a lot of people. I get it. He's been in business in the community for a long time. He's got his proponents. He's got his detractors. All those things, no argument.
And the detractors are pretty quiet right now, so.
Correct, because what he's doing right now, honestly, is brilliant. Just the way he's built the whole thing, pulled it all together. Everything's documented. It's absolutely brilliant. So anyway, I kind of tie it all together in a column that's on the website this morning, and you guys can absorb that.
Oh, boy.
All right. Had to get a little drink in there. All right, so other things on the website this morning, we've got recruiting news. Recruiting continues. The coaches are doing their evaluation visits. We catch up with offensive lineman Nathan Afobe. He's listing the Canes as his front runner, but he does have more visits coming up. We give you the update there. Another update is with 2025 offensive lineman Jalen Matthews, who picked up an early Hurricanes offer. But Miami's mostly focused on 2023 and 24, but he's a 2025 kid that we wanted to tell you about. And Matt, are you seeing a lot of 2025 recruiting right now?
Yeah, they're starting to do that. Yeah, there have been a handful of them since the evaluation period started. So they're here for the long haul. They're not just here for a year or two and just planning to recruit like Manny Diaz. Like, we'll just recruit for next year and then we'll worry about it after that. I mean, they're looking ahead 3 years, 3 cycles. And, I'm actually very curious. People are all saying this new 25, they're going to pass something which waives the 25-7 rule. You take as many initials as you want or whatever the new number is going to be. And they're like, this is going to be great for Miami. But, me, Gary, I'm Mr. Numbers. Like, it makes no difference for the next 2 classes from Miami. They're way over. It would be a stretch for them to take 32 next year and the year after, or even in either of those years, just because I think they only have 15, definitely under 20 in the next 2 years graduating. That's combined, 20 leaving in the next 2 years. And you could jettison guys. People will leave. People will turn pro early, but not to the level of what would be 32 plus 32, 64. You're not turning your roster over with 64 new players in the next 2 years. So they're not going over 64 anyway. And they have the full amount available because last year they were under anyway. So that it makes no difference to Miami whatsoever. This 25-7 thing or whatever the NCAA does. What the NCAA needs to do is raise the 85 so schools like Miami aren't forced to jettison guys who aren't performing, that wind up in a transfer portal that doesn't want them, and they wind up not getting degrees or whatever the case may be, and thrown to the wolves. There has to be some sort of provision, almost like those injury waivers, Gary, when somebody's injured and they can't play their career-ending injury, but they're guaranteed a scholarship for the remainder, an academic scholarship for the remainder of their time because they were football players. That's a waiver. They don't count against the 85. I would love to see this play. Just add 15 free, injury type things, but just for players who are no longer eligible to compete, but they are eligible. They can stay at the school and graduate if they so choose for free under full scholarship. That's what I'd love them to do. If they don't want to give a competitive advantage, going back to the old days of 100 scholarships like Alabama used to have, then like at least do that. At least keep it at 85, but add 15 so you're not forced to jettison a kid who already transferred to you and sucks, and you don't want him to wind up in the transfer portal, sit out for a year and not have a home. Let him graduate,
Decent point, no doubt. So we also have an update today on defensive tackle Ayobami Tafase. I hope I'm not butchering the name. He picked up a Miami offer May 5th. Another story on Johnny Williams IV, who landed a Miami offer in December, had previously had an offer at Oregon from Alex Mirabal, and now being recruited at Miami. We also chat with 2024 tight end Landon Thomas, a 4-star out of Georgia, who's now picked up a Miami offer, and we share where things stand there. And for you baseball fans, we've got recaps from the series this weekend.
Why do you schedule this team? I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Listen, Blake James can be fired again. I would fire him again right now. I assume it was him that was involved in this.
What is North Dakota State doing as a weekend series at this point in the season?
It doesn't make the team any better. Playing against bad competition is not good for anybody.
Yeah, it's a weird schedule for sure. But the Canes won all 3 games. Congratulations to them, and we wrap up all that for you as well. So a lot for you guys to dive into on the website this morning. Hope you enjoy it. That's going to do it for today. For Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. We wish everybody a wonderful day today, and we'll see you next time.